Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to My Matters Forum. Please be seated, as our program will start soon. Before the event starts, I would like to share a gentle reminder to our honorable guests. As this event will be broadcast live, please switch your mobile phone in silence mode. We will start soon. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome to My Matters Forum. My name is Tina Wen. I'm the Associate Director of HSBC PrivateBanking Marketing. It is our great pleasure to have you join this My Matter, a hackathon for social impact. This is a charity event initiated by HSBC PrivateBanking and co-organized with the Asian Charity Service to support Hong Kong recover from the impact of COVID-19, especially on mental well-being. Recently, on 22nd of August, 12 NGOs participated in a full-day hackathon. Today, those same NGOs are with us and will later pitch their proposal to judges and clients. All proposals are aimed at strengthening mental well-being in our community. Previous to this competition, we will hear a panel discussion on giving strategically to mental health. But before any of this, we will hear from our esteemed leader, Ms. Siu Ming Tang, Regional Head of HSBC Private Banking Asia Pacific. Welcome, Siu Ming.
Thank you very much, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. I would like to extend a very, very warm welcome to all of you for joining us here today at the My Matters Forum. It is an honor and privilege for me to be spending this morning with all of you. Amongst us are visionary business leaders, forward-looking philanthropists, and driven social workers, some present here and some over Zoom. Now, we may come from different sectors, but we are all united by our care for the community and our unwavering support for each other during these very challenging times. Now, for 155 years, HSBC has stood together with our clients and communities through peaks and troughs. With our deep roots and extensive network in Asia, given the huge economic damage and human casualties caused by the pandemic, it is even more important that we contribute to whatever way we can to help our neighbors, communities, and economies recover from this crisis. Now, in response to the pandemic, many of our clients have been donating hygiene kits and personal protective equipment to medical professionals, low-income families, and charities. We also supported a number of you in providing financial relief to the non-profit sector and in establishing dedicated programs to enable low-income families gain access to activities during the summer holidays to take care of their mental well-being. Now, HSBC also established a COVID-19 donation fund in March worth 195 million Hong Kong dollars to provide immediate medical relief, access to food, and care for the most vulnerable people around the world. Now, in Hong Kong, we also donated 60 million Hong Kong dollars on top of the Global Fund to provide food and hygiene supplies to 600,000 disadvantaged individuals and senior citizens. But we did not stop there. Taking inspiration from your thoughtful and generous acts to address needs that are gradually emerging as a result of the protracted pandemic, we want to dedicate our expertise and resources to help the city recover and emerge more resilient after the pandemic. As stricter social distancing measures came into place a few months ago, we reviewed the 2003 SARS outbreak and learned that quarantine could lead to anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress symptoms. At around the same time, social workers started to notice heightened levels of fear, stress, and anxiety amongst their beneficiaries. Now, according to the Harvard Medical School, mental health is one of the most overlooked medical needs. Here in Hong Kong, 1 in 6 individuals is suffering from some form of mental illness. Yet only 250,000 individuals are currently receiving treatment from public institutions. Many more do not feel comfortable seeking help due to lack of awareness and the stigma associated with mental illness. Not only does mental health affect a company's or an economy's productivity, if left unaddressed, it could lead to substance abuse, domestic violence, or even loss of life. With such large human and social costs, we see an opportunity to invite our clients to join us in making a positive change for the community. Hence, we came up with the idea for Mind Matters. The good news is that for every $1 invested in mental health, the World Health Organization estimates that we gain $4 worth of productivity. We have indeed a unique opportunities to catalyze change and re-energize the community. We designed Mind Matters with 3 goals in mind. First, to raise awareness about the importance of mental health so that everyone is comfortable with seeking help. Second, to build capacity within the non-profit sector so that they can adapt to new mental health needs that emerged as a result of COVID. And third, to encourage our clients to join us in tackling this important challenge. We are indeed fortunate to have support from the University of Pennsylvania and Asian Charity Services to help us frame and deliver this ambitious agenda. Ms. Nancy Yang and her team at Asian Charity Services have been working with us to train and support the non-profit community in designing effective programs to address Hong Kong's mental health needs. You will hear from her later today on the capacity building work that has been integral to the presentations from our NGO partners in the second part of today's program. As many of you know, there are multiple approaches to strengthen the community's mental well-being. To set the stage, Ms. Katharina Rosquita from the University of Pennsylvania will be sharing research findings on effective ways for philanthropies to address mental health. We are also honored to have Mr. Adrian Fu, Chairman of the Fu Tak Lam Foundation, and Ms. Cecilia Ho, President of the Lee Hai San Foundation, to share their views and observations on the role of philanthropy in addressing mental health to join us in terms of the mental health needs. Kat, Adrian, Cecilia, thank you for taking time to join us today. Sharing your experiences will help us reflect on the most meaningful way to contribute to support the community. I hope that all of you are as excited as I am to hear 12 NGOs pitch their proposed solutions to improve mental health well-being in the community. Now, these 12 organizations represent a range of stakeholders in the community, as you will discover later on. Their work shows that mental illness cut across age, groups, as well as socio-economic strata, and no to barriers. Now, you are curious about how mental health may affect us physically. Please visit the newly inaugurated MySpace, a mental health experience museum at the Chesapeake Hospital, which HSBC funded. This museum features interactive exhibits to simulate common experiences by those suffering from mental illness. Let's work together to re-energize the city by strengthening the community's mental well-being and addressing mental health needs. I hope all of you will join us in making a difference. On that note, thank you very, very much for your participation today.
Thank you. Thank you, Siu Ming. I can't agree more on the point of inspiring a client and partner to make a positive change in the community. Exactly the same reason, we specially invite some distinctive speaker to join our panel discussion, sharing, giving strategically to mental health. We are honored to have Mr. Adrian Fu, Chairman of Fu Tat Liam Foundation, Ms. Cecilia Ho, President of Lee Hazen Foundation, and Ms. Katharina Rosquita, Founding Executive Director of Center for High Impact Philanthropy at University of Pennsylvania, and Ms. Dorothy Chen, Head of Philanthropy Advisory and Charitable Service, Private Wealth Solution of HSBC Private Banking, will be the moderator of this section. Dorothy, go over to you.
Thank you, Tina. I'm very honored to be joined by two very forward-thinking philanthropists, Mr. Adrian Fu and Mrs. Cecilia Ho here, to share their experience and insight in supporting mental health in Hong Kong. And joining us via Zoom is Ms. Katharina Rosetta, whose Center for High Impact Philanthropy produced a report called Health and Mind earlier this year on how philanthropists can give meaningfully to mental health needs. I know that a lot of you may have questions for our panelists, so please use the Q&A function on the website. We'll try to answer them today, but if we cannot do so, please, our panelists have agreed to respond to all of you later via written means. We're a bit tight on time, so I think I will jump straight to have Kat to share a bit more about why the center put together the mental health research paper and also the findings from the paper. So Kat, over to you.
Great, thank you so much, Dorothy. I'm delighted to be here for such an important event. The Center for High Impact Philanthropy works on many different issues, from addressing homelessness, food insecurity, major public health priorities, disaster response. And one of the key reasons we decided to do a deep examination of how philanthropy can address mental health is because across all the issues that we've worked on, whether it's economic development or education outcomes or disaster relief, addressing mental health and well-being was a common theme. And when it is unaddressed, it's preventing progress in all the other areas that we've looked at. Now, today, in the midst of a global pandemic, it's even more important because those who were already vulnerable are finding themselves even more vulnerable because of the tactics we've needed to use to keep everybody safe, especially the isolation that is coming from the need for social distancing. And even for those who were never really at high risk, those same tactics and practices are making those newly vulnerable. So it's never been more important to tackle this issue. And what I'm going to do now is share some of the findings from the research effort that, that Dorothy described to give you some context for the discussion that I know she's going to be facilitating. Health in Mind, which is a free and now publicly available resource from our website at the Center for High Impact Philanthropy, is an overview of the evidence-based strategies that can help, and is a synthesis of years worth of work that our multidisciplinary team at the Center for High Impact Philanthropy has been conducting. Now, when I talk about the evidence and the research we've done, for us, guidance has to do two things. It has to be informed by the best available evidence, and it has to be actionable in the real world. And because of that, the findings that I'll share at the high level, I want to emphasize the fact that it was informed by what we call 3 different circles of evidence. The first is what you would expect from a university-based center, which is research with a big R, academic research. So the findings from things like randomized controlled trial studies, quasi-experimental design studies, modeled analyses that's taking advantage of a lot of data that's available. But that's not enough. That can be a starting point, but if you're trying to create change in the real world, academic answers aren't enough. And so we also conducted interviews and reviewed findings from what we call expert opinions, stakeholders, policy analyses. Nothing gets published from our center that isn't vetted with practitioners and stakeholders who have been committed to the issue. And because we're talking about change in the lives of individuals and families, we also make sure that we are talking to those who are most directly affected and to their caregivers. So that includes understanding what the beneficiaries are experiencing, what has helped, what hasn't, and what the NGOs and nonprofits on the ground are doing and seeing. When all 3 circles of evidence are pointing in the same direction, that's when our team gets excited, and that's when we start seeing what are high impact philanthropic opportunities. This is the Health in Mind framework. So after all of that work, we identified 5 broad strategies that can lead to positive change in improving mental health and well-being. No matter which community a philanthropist is trying to help, which country, which families whose lives they're trying to improve. But given the discussion that you're having today and the NGOs you're going to be hearing from and the experiences of my fellow panelists, we're going to focus on 3 in particular. The first is a focus on young people. From the early days, 0 to 5, when brain development is at its most intense, to support during school, and providing the resilience and life skills that are so critical to make that transition from child to adolescent to teenager to where we all want young people to be, which is healthy, independent adulthood. The second finding in terms of a high impact strategy is a focus on those who are most affected. Right? As was stated earlier, mental health and well-being issues affect all of us. It does not discriminate based on country or socioeconomic status. But for those who are disproportionately affected, you can help by removing some of the practical barriers. Practical barriers can be things like, is there care that is geographically close to them or is available when they're in crisis? It involves eliminating cultural and language barriers that can prevent somebody who knows they need help from accessing that help. And finally, and this is one of the reasons why this forum is so important, unlike some other issues that our team has worked on, sadly, mental health is surrounded by stigma in many places and discrimination. And the social disconnectedness that exists because of that stigma has only become exacerbated because of the current pandemic. And finally, although there's a lot that we know that has helped, there is always room and need for innovation. So another high impact opportunity is to seek ways that we can transform the landscape, improving our understanding of mental health, reimagining what effective care looks like, figuring out ways where the financing of mental health is linked to better outcomes, and promoting overall a comprehensive approach to health and well-being. So with that as a start and a framework, I will pass it back over to Dorothy so you can hear some of the real world and specific examples of ways to help from my esteemed fellow panelists.
And in fact, what you've described just now is being applied by both the Phu Thach Lam Foundation and the Lee Hyson Foundation. So without further ado, I think I would like to invite Cecilia to share a bit more about the foundation and all the mental health initiatives that you have introduced in response to the needs in the community.
Thank you, Dorothy. Lee Hyson Foundation is a private family foundation established in Hong Kong in 1973. So we are celebrating our 47th anniversary this year. We focus on a range of sectors, education, social welfare and health, arts and culture, and environment. But our mission is very simple: for the betterment of Hong Kong. So although we have a narrow geographic focus, but we have a diverse range of projects. Knowing that mental health is a burning issue, especially in Hong Kong, so we have done our own landscape study many months ago by talking and working with key stakeholders like NGOs, academic experts, foundations, especially policymakers. And so we identified areas, the who, the what, the when, the how, to provide our funding. When we vet our projects, we look at 5 different areas. So these are the funding principles that we look at when we vet our project. From right to left, catalytic effect, cost effectiveness, of course, and collaboration is one area that we want to advocate. Sometimes we will fund 4 NGOs in a certain sector doing the same thing, but they play on their strength to enrich the impact. And sometimes we would co-fund with other funders. We look at impact and scope. We look at the depth and breadth of the output and outcome, and of course, sustainability. And in some very important subjects, we will drive for policy change. And fortunately, we do have some success in that area. Among the 46 projects that we are funding, there are 13 mental health projects that we're actively supporting. In terms of target group, as the panelist has mentioned, UPenn's research, young people, young children, early intervention. So we have targeted kindergarten kids, the youth, and adults. Adults, we specifically focus on caregivers, like the parents, the teachers, the social workers who are providing service. And the disadvantaged group, we pay much attention to ethnic minorities as well as the disabled community, and of course the elderly. And we have a wide range of scope. Projects that we support include public promotion and education to take away the stigma. We have training, capacity building for NGOs in the counseling service area. We support early detection and early intervention, especially in the psychosocial area as well as the medical area. And normally, most of the projects that we support are very long, 3+ years, because we want depth. But with the COVID-19 pandemic and the urgency, this year we've supported many, many more new projects that are one-off, quick fix, short-term, less than 1 year. I want to share a few projects to show the various ways that we fund our mental health projects. The first project is on collaboration. It's a care service project for the visually impaired group. We pulled together 7 service providers. They are the major service providers in this sector. And then they quickly collaborate the efforts and produce a very effective hotline service, outreach service, as well as translated the very important information into Braille and audio. So with collaborative effort, actually we can reach almost every visually impaired people in Hong Kong. So this is the beauty of collaboration, and funders has the responsibility, and we can task with to incentivize collaboration. And the second project is more on a long-term policy change project. It's on elder abuse. This is one of the very major service area that is lack of support, lack of attention. So we engage a university in Hong Kong, work with 5 different disciplines: rehab sciences, nursing, rehab, applied social sciences, etc. And we collaborated with 8 NGOs. The wish is to compile or devise a comprehensive protocol to detect, intervene, and prevent elder abuse. And there is a very professional research attached to this project to hopefully facilitate legislation and policy change. And the third one is on a quick, innovative project. It's targeted for parents with young kids, especially the stress created due to school suspension. So we engage an educator, a psychologist, and also an artist to create a series of 1-minute animation video clips to be put on various social media platforms. Within a few months, it has aroused positive feedback from NGOs, parents, and even the Education Bureau. So we moved to the next phase, and we support a phase 2 with 3 NGOs participating, as well as some enhancement, including storytelling clips, as well as webinar with psychologists. And finally, a group of people, that is the caregivers. It's usually a group of people that the funder may neglect. So we also support one of the projects that is a mindfulness project, focusing on social workers, especially working on youth problems. So we hope to help them distress so that they can go back refreshed to work on the best of their capacity.
Well, thank you, Cecilia. I think that's a great example of how you're engaging all the stakeholders across the board to embed change for the longer term. And I understand that the Fu Tak Lam Foundation is equally perceptive and also deliberate in making sure that when you embark on a project, you take care of everybody, this ecosystem too. So Adrian, may we trouble you to share a bit more about why you established this foundation and also your vision or your approach to giving?
All right. Thank you, Dorothy, and good morning, audience. When my father passed away 14 years ago, he's left behind a very substantial portfolio of assets. And since I've come from a line of savers in the family, I don't really think about spending the money, but rather thinking of how to really make use of the money that my father would have liked to see. So it gave me the thought then that I could put the money in an endowment which is perpetual. The idea then is to involve my immediate family members like my wife and my children to participate in the planning as to how we can manage this pool of funds as well as how to make it meaningful to society. And My wife responded right away, but there is a caveat, and she said that she was very passionate about animal welfare. If I would consider making part of this mission to save animals, she would be very happy to help me. So we started like that, and then I recruited my eldest son, who has been in the fund management business for 10 years by then, and I asked him whether he'd like to manage, become the investment officer for this endowment fund. And he obviously was very happy to hear about this, because it's one way of remembering his grandfather and probably trying to know more about the family legacy. So then my youngest son, who was then a private banker, and I asked him to participate, to form a committee in granting, and he also agreed to do that. So I've got my team together, and I thought about my immediate family. I mean, we meet other members of the full family maybe during weddings, birthday parties, funerals, and that's how Chinese families like to get together. So I thought if we can find a common denominator of really getting the family to do something more meaningful, sort of socially responsible for all the money we made from society, that would be also quite meaningful. So I started to do that, and now my youngest cousins actually come and join the foundation. So the next thing we did was we write a very simple mission statement, and Dorothy, you pointed out that we approach charity or philanthropy like we adopt a business approach to it, because we consider that every project we support would be an investment. Now today, impact investment is a buzzword in philanthropy. But when we first started, we didn't think about impact investment. We thought about making an investment and forming a partnership with the NGO. If you can coin a private equity jargon, it's us being the limited partner, and then the NGO being the general partner. So we provide the funding, we pick the projects to support, and we measure the outcomes, and that's how we introduce discipline into our organization, as well as introducing corporate governance into the NGO.
Yeah. Perhaps I think we had a slide on how you evaluate projects.
I don't know how to operate this.
Here it is.
Right.
So I think that was very integral in how you approach it, and also ensure that there's a lot of impact. So perhaps you can share with us your approach, because you have so many choices.
Right. So what we do is, first of all, we prioritize, because the endowment fund generates, hopefully, a healthy return every year. So we dedicated the return of the year. Let's for instance, the endowment fund is X dollars, and the return, say 4% from the fund, is Y dollars. Then the budget for the entire year's granting would be Y dollars. So at the beginning of the year, we would have a budget of Y dollars, and then we would have 4 quarterly donation decisions. So we let's, for instance, during the first quarter, at the end of March, we would have approved the Y less, say, W amount, and the donations could be 1 year, it could be multiple years, and then we work with the NGOs, and they come back to us with the format that we presented here to measure the outcomes. Now, if any of these outcomes is not achieved, then we will sit down. There is a certain hand-holding, because we are very hands-on. There's a certain amount of hand-holding, particularly with smaller NGOs, because as you can imagine, NGOs, most of them, particularly the small ones, are not run by Wharton MBAs. They are actually run by social workers and volunteers who tend to wear their hearts on their sleeves. So because they are in touch with the sufferers every day, they then become emotionally overwhelmed, and sometimes they lose sight of their priorities. So we have to do a certain amount of coaching with the NGOs, and to come up, hopefully, that they can come up with a good report card. And then we move on to the next stage. So first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter, hopefully by the end of the year, they would have achieved all the outcomes. Now, if these are multi-year grants, then obviously we have to set another target for the year following, et cetera, et cetera. So in a nutshell, we are trying to form a partnership with NGOs, and then we move on from there.
Yeah. I really appreciate both of your approach. You are very hands-on, putting all the partners together, bringing the researchers and or the policymakers and the relevant bureaus to in effect change. And Adrian, what you mentioned also is helping the NGO build capacity. And I think that's is part of the, as you mentioned, it's part of the mission of this hackathon, is that we want to help them think through, because a lot of times there's a gap between what the donor wants and what the NGO is able to see and communicate. So this bridging effect is fantastic. So we're a bit short on time, but if I would have to, and I wanted to take this opportunity to also ask both of you to give one piece of advice to any one of our audience. If you intend to want to make a long-term impact in a community, regardless of what your focus area is in terms of giving back, what would it be? Shall we start with Cecilia, Adrian, and then we'll have Kat give us a piece of advice afterwards?
Well, being a private funder, I think we have agility, flexibility, and also have the appetite to take risks, especially at this difficult time. I think what we need to do is, besides looking at long-term project where we have to do due diligence and we have to build a longer-term relationship with NGO, we can also put aside some of the money to do quick fix. This year we have done a lot of quick fix, which is very important, emergent. And I guess as a funder, we should do three things. First of all, we should walk the talk. As Adrian has mentioned, I'm not advocating micromanagement, but I think what we need to do is walk the journey with the NGO. We have to attend their events, go to some of the meetings, talk to the beneficiaries. Through this process, then as funder, we will understand the scope, the depth of the problem or the cause, and by gaining knowledge, then we're able to make more impactful donation in the future. And the second thing is always collaboration. That's very dear to my heart. My formula is 1 + 1 = 3. And there's a project that we fund together with Adrian. And there's a project that I fund a component of the NGO, and Adrian funds the other part, so we can complement each other. And with this event, I'm calling for Dorothy. If you have clients who are willing and like-minded who are willing to collaborate with Lee Hyson Foundation, please connect. And the third very important thing is donation in kind. Financial support is key, but like what Hong Kong Bank has done today, connecting NGOs with funders, it's a very, very good opportunity to be a connector. And I think funders, we also have other resources like venues, premises, manpower, skills. So these can add value to the project that we support.
Thank you. Adrian?
About 5 years ago, we started the Warm Shelter Initiative. Now, the idea of this is to identify the most densely populated and impoverished districts in Hong Kong. So we've come up with Sham Shui Po, Kwai Chung, Kwai Tsing, Kwun Tong. Now, with that focus, we pick out NGOs which are active in that area, and we actually bring direct service to the sufferers. Now, we find that it is, of course, a cure and not prevention. But we are looking at the situation in Hong Kong that people really need emergency relief, like what we're talking today. So we find that by working closely with the NGOs, we make grants to the sufferers in the streets. That is, at the moment, what we intend to do. Even by providing accommodation to NGOs so that they can stay in that area on a nominal rent basis so that they can continue their work within those districts. And that is something that we find is working quite well. Obviously, in some of the projects, you might want to show the projects regarding mental health. We actually have carried out right, the previous one. Right. Now, you will notice that we focus on two groups, youth and women, because we believe that in these areas that we focus on, those are the two groups that suffer the most. And therefore, our programs are targeted, very specifically targeted at these groups of people. Now, we will continue to do that, and I think to give effectively, this is what we believe.
Wow, that's fantastic. And Kat, would you like to say a couple words because before you wind up?
Sure. So our team teaches funders every year in our funder education program. And when I think of the funders who have participated, who have made the most progress in whatever area they care about, and have had the most satisfaction in their philanthropy, it's often because they are able to appreciate that high impact philanthropy is both an art and a science. And I really appreciated Adrian's comment about the social worker and the MBA. In many ways, that describes our center. It was founded by alumni of the Wharton School, but it's housed in one of the oldest schools of social policy, social work in the United States. And I think, appreciate the fact that all these issues that we're talking about, and particularly mental health, these are issues that have existed long before any of us have tried to make a difference in it, right? So these are long-standing community issues that some of the best minds with a lot of funding and other resources have tried to address before. And so the folks who are successful are the ones who are able to bring together the best thinking and the deepest hearts to come up with those solutions that really work. And I go back to, Cecilia said many times collaboration, and Adrian referred to partnership. I mean, that model is necessary for any effective philanthropy because we don't get very far if we do it alone. So it's about bringing together the best of what all of us can collectively offer. That's what's going to get us all farther.
Thank you, Kat. And as Xiuming mentioned earlier, one of the goals for Mind Matters is to raise awareness. We wanted to broaden understanding of mental health. We want to facilitate cross-sector collaboration. And we also want to encourage our clients and our friends to channel more resources into this area. So I think what Kat mentioned and what Cecilia and Adrian mentioned, if we put our hearts and minds together, leverage the power of our network, we can embed change for the longer term. And apologies for not being able to answer any questions today, but please continue to put it in the system. We'll get back to you. And please join me in thanking Adrian and Cecilia and Kat for sharing their insight. It definitely helped me think through how we should chart our own course if we think about giving back to the community. Thank you so much.
What an insightful discussion. I particularly like the idea about giving strategically to create a long-term positive change. And thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you, Dorothy. And thank you, Katrina. So let's take a short break and come back in 5 minutes. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to My Matters Forum. Please be seated as our program will start shortly. Please switch your mobile phone in silence mode during the event. Thank you. To the second section of My Matters Forum. Steve Jobs once said, "Great things in business are never done by one person." I think same applies to philanthropy and charitable service. For this reason, HSBC Private Banking is honored to have the opportunity to partner with Asian Charity Service in the My Matters Forum. Please welcome Mrs. Nancy Yang, co-founder of Asian Charity Service, to say a few words. Nancy, please.
Thank you, Tina. We are truly honored ourselves to partner with the HSBC Private Banking on this important campaign to support mental health and well-being in Hong Kong. I'd like to take just a few minutes to share a little bit about Asian Charity Services and to bring you up to speed on the My Matters campaign events so far. Asian Charity Services is a Hong Kong nonprofit, and we've been serving the local NGO sector since 2007. We are passionate about serving those who serve in the local Hong Kong community. Our vision is that by strengthening and equipping NGO leaders in Hong Kong, we enable them to be more effective, more efficient, and more sustainable in serving our community. ACS's service model is fundamentally based on community partnership. We mobilize business professionals to provide pro bono business consulting, training, and mentoring to local NGO leaders. We work with partnering organizations like Hong Kong Jockey Club, family foundations, and corporates such as HSBC Private Banking to help direct valuable funding, and volunteer resources to where it's most needed in the community. Over the last 13 years, ACS has had the great privilege to serve more than 700 local NGOs and train more than 1,700 NGO leaders. There is an incredible multiplier effect here, as these NGOs in turn serve over 1 million beneficiaries across Hong Kong's neediest communities. Our NGO beneficiaries represent a wide range of sectors, including children and youth, education, environment, healthcare, poverty alleviation, elderly, social welfare, and women. As mentioned earlier, one of the key elements of our service model is cross-sector collaboration. An important part of that is mobilizing and training Hong Kong business professionals who are passionate to serve our NGO community with their valuable skills and resources, and they offer their time completely pro bono. As shared earlier, the My Matters campaign focus areas are based on recent research from the University of Pennsylvania. My Matters funding, including the generous giving of many of you attending the forum today, will be directed towards NGO projects which fall into 3 critical impact areas. First, projects which focus on early intervention with young people to develop resilience and life skills. Research shows that intervening early can prevent or mitigate risk and reduce the severity of longer-term mental health disorders. To change the trajectory of a young life is one of the most powerful investments that you can make. Second, My Matters projects will also help the most affected populations in Hong Kong that experience mental health challenges. This would include support of not only direct clinical programming, but also more general non-clinical NGO programming, which improve overall mental well-being. And third, projects that raise awareness and make care accessible to vulnerable groups. Mental health issues know no boundaries. Each one in the community is at risk. And yet, cultural and socioeconomic barriers can prevent many people in Hong Kong from voicing their needs and getting the care they require. Well, we've had an exciting journey so far in the My Matters campaign. In addition to the critical funding that will be granted for NGO programs, My Matters has also provided valuable NGO capacity building, which strengthens the entire mental health and wellness community in Hong Kong, including equipping 240 NGO leaders from 124 different NGOs in fundraising proposal training, running an all-day hackathon with 12 shortlisted NGO teams who worked with dedicated business volunteers to strengthen their project ideas and communication skills. And directly after the hackathon, all 12 NGO teams had this amazing opportunity to meet and receive coaching from local foundations and philanthropists. My Matters was about connecting and collaborating with different stakeholders in the Hong Kong social ecosystem to affect lasting social change. COVID-19 has impacted every part of the Hong Kong community, increasing uncertainty in our economy, increasing uncertainty in our job market, in our community, and in our family relationships. The My Matters Hackathon allowed Hong Kong NGOs a unique opportunity to collaborate with and benefit from the experience and resources of dedicated business volunteers and passionate local philanthropists. My Matters was about bringing together different parts of the body, different parts of the Hong Kong community, working together to strengthen the mental well-being of our entire community and re-energize Hong Kong. We would like to thank our partner, HSBC PrivateBank. Your vision to and commitment for My Matters gives a voice to Hong Kong NGOs, big and small, and some of the most vulnerable in our community. We hope everyone in person today, as well as virtually, will enjoy today's NGO presentations, and we hope you'll find it a valuable opportunity to learn more about a broad range of social needs in Hong Kong today. I'd like to share a quote I recently read from Dr. Roxane Cohen-Silver, a professor of psychological science and public health at UC Irvine. According to Dr. Silver, it is extremely important that we recognize that anxiety is contagious, but so is compassion. So I'd like to end by thanking each of you for attending the forum today and helping to make compassion contagious in Hong Kong. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. It's such a meaningful project. I think that all people feel very proud of supporting it. Now, let me introduce our honorable panel of judges of today's competition. Ms. Adeline Wong, Human Capital Director of Baring Private Equity Asia. Ms. Siu Ming Tang, Regional Head of HSBC Private Banking, Asia Pacific. Mr. Adrian Fu, Chairman of Fu Tak Yam Foundation. Mr. Clifford Ng, Co-Managing Partner of Chung Lun Law Firm. Mrs. Ivy Wu, Director of Hope World Holding. Ms. Karen Zhang, Chief Strategist of Ting Hua Chen Foundation. Dr. Bonnie Siu, Chief of Service, Department of Forensic Psychiatry, Castle Pete Hospital. Before inviting our NGO on stage, I would like to remind everyone that each NGO will only have 5 minutes to present their proposal. After each presentation, judges will conduct a short Q&A section. In recognition of the mental health need in our community, our judges will develop a project based on the relevancy, impact, feasibility, innovation, and scalability. On top of their written proposal and pitches, they will consider whether the project has the potential to create change, whether they have the team and resources in place to execute, and whether the project can be scaled up to other areas. Each client watching our live broadcast is invited to participate by casting their vote for the top 3 preferred projects. The result of voting will serve as an important reference for judges to consider. We will explain the voting method in more detail after the completion of presentation. Okay, now let's invite the first team on stage. The project is Project Niche, and it is prepared by AIDS Concern Foundation Limited, will be presented by Alec Kwong and Jason Chen. Please take the floor.
Sexual minorities referring to LGBT community, which is lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. And estimate they made up of about 5% of the community. And in their daily life, they will experience a lot of boycott, stigma, or discriminations. Therefore, about 60% of them has a poor mental health when compared with the others. And because today, with the advancement of the technology, many of the youth today will use dating apps to meet new faces online. And particularly during the COVID-19, it is used more widely. And for LGBT community, dating app also provide them an environment to meet new faces in a safer place because they can make sure the person that they are talking to is LGBT friendly because before they meet them in person. It's estimated that there are about 80,000 of active users on some of the dating apps. And there is a happy share culture among the users. In order to raise the chance for them to meet more new people, they will upload a lot of their live photos, videos, or some more information to attract the other users. However, there are some liars who will take the chance to take some advantage from the users. For example, they will capture their videos, recording their photos or voice message, so that they will blackmail on them or threaten them by threaten them to disclose their privacy on the internet, or even blackmail for them for money or other benefits. However, for the clients, for the victims, they have little can do instead, because many of the lies are out of Hong Kong. Besides, once the information are being put online, there is a bring the victim culture on the internet. Thirdly, there is only a few NGOs provide service for LGBT community. And because of the lack of education on the cyber security, there are more and more image-based sexual violence happened in Hong Kong these years. That's why we come up with the project niche. We would like to provide some timely and suitable support for the LGBT communities to raise their awareness on the cyber security, as well as the mental health, sexual health, and to eliminate internal stigma for them.
So our current project targets young people aged 16 to 35. And we use both a bottom-up and a top-down approach. For the bottom-up approach, we will conduct 20 sections of educational workshops, equipping the young people with knowledge and soft skills in areas like internet security, mental health issues, sexual health issues, and also gender issues. So we hope that they can openly discuss about these relatively sensitive or stigmatized topics with us, and when necessary, they can seek help. So we'll also conduct expressive art therapy and mindfulness workshop. Like in a workshop that I conducted, people living with HIV actually has significantly improved their physical health and positive emotions. So we think this kind of approaches would be like a softer way to approach the teenagers. Then these young people will be partnered with some famous KOL or YouTubers. They will create a total of 10 videos each year in topics that is related to the topics that I previously mentioned. So we target to reach 10,000 audience. And we believe that because young people will have the best knowledge about the young people's culture, and also they can have the best peer influence. So for a top-down approach, we will do internet outreach. We'll approach 1,500 young people through dating apps, no matter it's for heterosexual people and also for LGBT individuals. And we target 50% at least will be for LGBT individuals. Then we hope that 300 of them will take part in an initial mental health and sexual health screening. Then half of them will join our first intake section for counseling. And then 75 people will engage in a more comprehensive counseling and psychotherapy services in areas like gender identity issues, relationship issues, or other sexual health issues. So we believe that with the collaboration with different parties, of course, we need the support from all of you here, and with the expertise and knowledge of our helping professionals, of course, they are LGBT friendly, we can make a positive impact on the young people's sexual health, mental health, and of course, the well-being in general. So we can co-create a more inclusive society at large. And thank you for listening.
Thank you.
So now will be the Q&A section. Any judges want to ask questions?
If I may go first, right? My question to you will be, what sort of experience have you in running such programs? Can you share a little bit, give us a little bit of color?
Okay. In previous, we have conducted, funded by other like Gilead, those large-scale company, or the Jockey Club. We have run some projects about internet outreach, also some sex educators education program to train up teenagers to conduct sexual health education among their peers. Okay. Besides, we also have experienced in conducting a lot of workshops on mental health with art therapy, my colleagues. Okay.
Yes, and therefore, actually, we have experience of organizing like mindfulness workshops and also art therapy workshops, and partnering with some universities' research teams. Then we can also understand fully like how we can like deliver the expected outcomes for the young people and also some vulnerable groups. And we think that these like evidence for the efficacy would further inform our practice in the future. Thank you.
I noticed you're going to plan to advertise on Tinder, Grindr, and the like. Have these programs been used in other places, and how successful were they?
Like in general, you mean the 4 areas of services that we propose?
They might have done this kind of promotion.
Okay, so I think especially for LGBT community, there are services currently being provided in Hong Kong or overseas. But I would say this kind of activities or services are still quite new, especially for the sex education in Hong Kong. We can see that they are really not really comprehensive or enough for the young people to be openly discussing about these more sensitive topics. So that's why I think as a pioneer or more experience in the area of sexual health services, AIDS Concern, our organization, will have the knowledge and experience in working in these areas. And we believe that sexual health and also mental health, they are intercorrelated. So we hope that we can improve those areas together so that they can
to create a more direct, diversity, inclusive community in Hong Kong for
it's
the
not
LGBT community.
only for the service users, but also improving the stigmatizing attitudes in the general public.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Jason. Of time, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, let's invite the second team on stage. It is Project MyLab, a Holo crossover Hong Kong youth well-being initiative. It is prepared by Hong Kong JC Center for Suicide Research and Prevention, the University of Hong Kong, and will be presented by Cameron Van Breeder and Paul Yip.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cameron Van Breeda. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Holo, and here I have Professor Paul Yip, the Director for Suicide Research and Prevention at HKU, and today we're presenting Project MindLab. A little bit about myself. I'm from a biotech background. My co-founder is from a computer science background, and Paul Yip here has got a diverse range of experience with NGOs, researchers, and collaborations around the globe. And so if you haven't actually heard about the Center for Suicide Research, they have a lot of work with the WHO, Jockey Club, and even HSBC previously. Some of their online projects for intervention at the moment look at Open Up, depression.edu.hk, and We Care. Yeah. And so a little bit about Holo. We're a social technology enterprise that just won the Global Microsoft Imagine Cup Championship with over 28,000 students around the world, and we're very excited to be part of this collaboration. We're also supported by Cyberport and the SI Fund from the government in Hong Kong. And so the target beneficiaries that we're talking about today are the youth in Hong Kong particularly. And so with an over of 120% of online service outreach online, they've been looking online for solutions. And so due to this, there's a heightened risk of suicide, especially during COVID-19 in the youth groups. And so we actually see a lot of online misinformation, and we can see that a lot of these individuals are not only isolated, invisible, but also misunderstood by themselves and those around them. And so if we actually see there's 70% of youth in Hong Kong experiencing mental health issues, and because of this, this is one of the leading causes of death in the age ranges of 15 to 24. And so actually 20% of these individuals never reach out for help. And so we actually interviewed the other end of the spectrum, where a lot of therapists expressed they feel a lack of technology in this aspect. And so they agreed that there should be a new approach to help target the youth sector. And so they see themselves having a largely time-consuming process and also really poor engagement in the youth services at the moment. And they see themselves being empowered not only by the data and becoming more accurate in diagnosis. And so what we propose is a collaboration between our technology enterprise and the Center for Suicide Research, where we provide the technological know-how and Paul provides the clinical know-how, where we provide our proprietary mental health detection screening technology, and Paul provides a lot of the psychoeducation materials and mindfulness practices from their expertise. And so we see ourselves targeting over 25 schools, 10,000 beneficiaries over these 2 years with a $4 million funding. And so a little bit more about the technology. And so what if I told you we are able to screen mental health using not only just a video and a questionnaire? So typically, mood tracking apps use questionnaires to help understand someone. And so we actually developed technology where we can track someone's mental health using the video. And so for instance, we can detect stress, sleep quality, and more features in the future, including like audio analysis and different behavioral analytics in big data on what's being used on their phone to help really understand holistically what that mental health of that individual is like. And so we can actually see ourselves being quite quantitative and credible, and we actually are working with the HKU to help accredit this technology that we have to really understand someone's mental health. And so if we can equip them with the understanding and really give them actionable steps on how to improve themselves through not only mindfulness practices, we can also highlight high-risk cases, help NGOs and schools outreach to those students that are at risk, and also help monitor and predict the sort of early intervention using big data over time. And so this is a really powerful tool that we can believe that can not only help therapists, schools, but also NGOs streamline a lot of their admin services, because a lot of that is still done on paper basis. And so some of the expected outcomes of our project are looking at an improved knowledge or an overall awareness of mental health in the youth, and through an accessible technology that's on a mobile app for them to use, they can really find a lot of credible resources, especially coming from a credible university like HKU. And so we can see an eventual behavioral change when these individuals start to recognize what's wrong with their mental health and be able to take actionable steps from credible resources. And so with this collaboration, we actually see ourselves continuing this R&D and improving our AI and our big data analysis over time using not only our own research, but the research from institutions like HKU and other universities doing similar projects around the world. And so ultimately, what we're trying to do is save lives by intervening and detecting really early stage. And I think this is a really promising start for technology in this sector as well. And so we actually see ourselves, a lot of traditional methods find that there's only around 20% improvement and utilization in this sector. But with a lot of mood tracking apps, they see around 50%. And so I believe with a more innovative technology, we can see ourselves improving upwards of 85% and above, targeting the youth sector to start with. And hopefully, as we have this initial proof of concept, we can scale it to focus on the corporate or even the elderly mental health care. And so we are supported largely by a lot of institutions in Hong Kong already and have a lot of strategic partners set up for this initiative. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Judge panel, any question?
So if I may ask, this is already live and you're trying to build the next level. Is that what, where you are now? Can you just give us a little bit more color?
So this project is currently undergoing with Hollow at the moment. So we are doing initial pilot, very early pilot tests at the moment. And we're looking to scale it even further, utilizing this funding and utilizing the partnership with Paul here and his department. And so we're looking to increase our outreach to more beneficiaries this year as well, to build up not only the tech, but the outreach and education.
And then the whole idea now, we have done a lot of research, and now we found a young partnership, and then that actually can scale the thing with these young men, and then they have a lot of creativities and such. So we bring in the research, and then we have the technological advance, and also with the experiences, because we have been doing a lot of engagement with the school now, but the school then, they themselves, they're looking for some new tools, I think, such that we can engage the young people. So I think with the apps, I think we have good the screening processes, and also we are going to create some self-care program. So we are going to provide a more holistic support, I think, for those students or for those young people who are in distress. And it actually, I think this product itself, it can scale up or it can be applied to other places, like the mental health, either workplaces or some other subgroup as well. So I think what we'd like to do now is as a pilot stage, and we'd like to scale it up, and then that can be benefit to the whole community.
Yeah.
Can you also just describe a little bit more of your activation program? How are you going to activate it if you get the funding?
Sure. So the initial pilot stages that we're organizing, Paul's center has a lot of intrinsic and already established partnerships with schools and NGOs in Hong Kong. And so the initial stages will look at creating the logistics and the program development to start with the new academic year, looking to start around December later this year. So we're setting up the infrastructure to start up the project.
Yeah, we have about 25 schools now. I mean, that we are serving now, but it actually now we try to move out from this so-called offline program to the online program and have a connected care, which are online and offline, they put together, and then for the young people.
I found that Karen online would like to ask a question. May I invite Karen to ask?
Thank you. I have a question about sharing patient data. Once you've identified youths at risk, how are you going to approach them to, because you said that you're going to refer them to different NGOs, and how are we going to address the confidentiality of patient information? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen, for your question. So what we're doing is accommodating for the privacy ordinance in Hong Kong and a lot of medical practice. And so what we use in terms of keeping their privacy intrinsic and secure, we're actually utilizing Microsoft Azure services, which is used worldwide for a lot of telehealth services. And in terms of referring them to NGOs directly, we look at the aggregate of the data. And so we don't actually reveal any personal particulars of what the data is showing about this individual. We're merely just connecting them to that practitioner to help identify them as a high-risk case that can be very more pliable to the outreach, especially during their critical time.
And also we give them a choice of the services supported that are available to them, such that they can make informed choices, whether they go to the NGOs, whether they go to the self-care program, and this.
Thank you, Cameron and Paul. Thank you so much. Okay, now let's invite the third team on stage. The project is addressing mental health concern to support migrant domestic workers in Hong Kong. It is prepared by Enrich Personal Development Limited and will be presented by Lucika Picker and Soleil El-Hassani. Go over to you.
Good morning. My name is Lucinda, and I'm the Executive Director of Enrich.
I am Soline, Fundraising Manager at Enrich, and we are here today because we need your support to provide life-changing mental health and debt support for migrant domestic workers.
There are 390,000 migrant domestic workers in Hong Kong who provide vital care for elderly and children. In 2018, through their care work, they contributed 98.9 billion Hong Kong dollars to the economy, equivalent to 3.6% of the GDP. Despite this huge economic contribution, migrant domestic workers face multiple financial challenges, and up to 83% are in some level of debt. We know that this debt is often associated with very high levels of stress. This year has been particularly difficult for domestic workers, and these are some of the messages we've been receiving. Women contacting us to say they're so depressed because of their financial difficulties, fear of losing their job, and the pressure to support family members back home. Earlier this year, a domestic worker sadly took her own life as a result of the financial difficulties she was facing. We know that this is preventable, but unfortunately the plight of migrant domestic workers is often overlooked in Hong Kong. We also know that debt, stress, is quite common amongst domestic workers, even in normal times. But COVID-19 has exacerbated this difficulty for domestic workers. They've faced a range of difficulties, from financial, from isolation, from being unable to leave their employers' homes, from physical exhaustion from working extra time to make sure their houses are clean, and huge pressure to send money back home. And as was mentioned earlier, cultural barriers and linguistic barriers mean that it can be very, very difficult for domestic workers to access support for this. We also know that even as Hong Kong begins to return to a new normal, that we're concerned that domestic workers as a really vulnerable population will be left behind. And so this is why we believe that financial and mental well-being go hand in hand. And building off our expertise as an educational charity for 13 years in Hong Kong, we would like to propose this new and holistic program in order to tackle financial and mental well-being.
First, we will offer special digital resources on our website in migrant domestic workers' languages, in English and in Bahasa Indonesia. The goal is to raise awareness about mental health issues and all the stigma that come with it. We will provide tools and tips to prevent financial distress and emotional distress. Part of the budget goes to produce a series on video on mental health to be shared with our program partners across Hong Kong. The second activity is to build the first blending learning program tailored to migrant domestic workers' needs and languages, again, in English and in Bahasa Indonesia. There are two components to that. The first one is the self-paced online learning. Any migrant domestic workers, even across Asia, can join and register on this online program to gain knowledge and support on debt management and mental well-being. The second component are our workshop and one-to-one support that we still continue to provide face-to-face or online to complement the information we will be on the online learning platform. For this, we will work closely with a mental health expert and also an e-learning consultant to develop the material and train our trainers. Your investment will go beyond 2 years project because we will reuse the platform and all the materials. Your help will actually help us to reach more migrant domestic workers over the years. We plan to help over 15,000 migrant domestic workers. We expect 1,200 registrations on our program, providing more than 420 counseling to help our participants to achieve financial security and mental wellness.
We believe that this project will have multiple benefits, not only for migrant domestic workers, but for their employers and for Hong Kong as a whole. If we are to truly build back better after COVID-19, we need to make sure that the most vulnerable populations are not left behind. And with your investment, we'll be able to make sure of this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'll go over to the judge panel. Any question from our judges or our judges from online join us remote? Any question? Any question from the floor?
Question. Are there currently similar services being made available to the workers currently?
The challenge, I think, at the moment is that the services that are available are often one-to-one in English, so there's a lack of tailored support in their languages, which is something that we see as a strength to our programs. And I think the other challenge with the existing services, which are fantastic, is that it doesn't necessarily always address the holistic approach to this and the root causes, which is often linked to finances. So for this, we believe that having a more systematic, longer-term approach will enable it to tackle the root causes as well as the immediate concerns.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Cameron. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you. Thank you, Lucinda and Solange. And now move to the next project. It is Relaxation Music Hub. It is prepared by Fantastic Dream Limited and will be presented by Andrew Yan and Cherry Chen. Go over to you.
好，各位評審大家好，各位參加今日嘅活動嘅大家朋友都好。咁我係叫 Andrew 啦，咁係妄想症嘅 founder 啦，咁隔離嘅就係 Cherry。咁妄想症咧係推廣緊咧網絡夢想同正能量，而我哋咧其實主要服務嘅對象咧係青少年，而呢批青少年咧係經常都會沉迷打機啦、沉迷上網啦。如果冇提早介入嘅話，我哋相信佢哋好大機會會變成一啲嘅隱青咁樣嘅。咁我哋咧其實喺咁多年以嚟咧，其實都透過網絡咧、網絡紅人咧去接觸咧唔同嘅青少年嚇。咁而我哋亦都同過好多嘅政府單位去合作啦。咁過往喺5年嘅期間咧，其實都有唔同嘅基金會支持過我哋啦，包括有賽馬會啦嚇、陳庭華基金會啦嚇、禁毒基金啦，同埋社創基金咁樣嘅，仲有星展銀行。咁我哋今次咧，其實嗰個嘅 project 咧，其實主要嗰個嘅rationale 咧係嚟自一個嘅數據啦。咁喺2012年咧，其實就係學生支援網絡咧就做咗一個好簡單嘅調查啦。咁啊訪問咗2000幾個中學生，90%都話佢哋會上 social media 㗎啦。咁我相信大家都會好明白。咁去到2019年咧，我哋同香港大學防止自殺研究中心咧，即係Professor 葉啦，今日都喺場裏邊啦。咁我哋都做咗一個 feasibility study 啦。咁訪問咗3329個年青人啦。咁係11至29歲嘅。佢哋咧佢都表示啦嚇，咁呢3000幾個係嚟自一啲咧經常都睇打機直播嘅一啲嘅年青人。佢哋話咧每日咧佢哋會花超過個半鐘咧係睇 YouTube。52.7% 表示佢哋有中度至到重度嘅一啲嘅抑鬱嘅症狀啦，咁好依賴 YouTube 啦。而佢哋表示咧少過10%咧，佢哋會揾咧傳統嘅青年服務咧去求助。咁我哋相信咧呢一班咧咁難搞嘅青年啦，可能喺社工啦或者喺學校嘅角度嚟講都比較難去處理嘅。我哋有一啲嘅方法咧去reach 到佢哋啦，甚至係去幫助佢哋咁樣嘅。所以今次咧，我哋針對嘅對象咧，其實主要就係11至29歲啦。頭先提過，咁佢哋係每日都會上網啦、玩 games 3個鐘啦。咁佢哋咧亦都會面對住一啲佢哋有啲 mental health 嘅 issues 啦。咁主要嚟講，佢哋都係好低動力尋求協助啦，難以融入社會啦，咁缺乏夢想方向啦，拒絕改變啦，甚至長遠咧，如果唔處理嘅話咧，佢哋會係失去一啲社會歷練。咁而我哋喺3月份開始咧，其實已經開始做咗一個6個月嘅 pilot project 㗎啦。咁主要咧就係做一啲 webinar 啦，咁就係由 KOL 嚟到去做啦，咁啊做啲直播啦，咁有啲同音樂相關㗎啦，咁啊亦都有填詞比賽同埋一啲嘅填詞工作坊。咁我哋發現咧喺呢6個月嘅 project 嘅裏邊咧，除咗話一啲數字上嘅 output 之外咧，我哋都見到一啲好實際嘅 outcome 出咗嚟。咁例如咧，佢哋會去表達佢哋自己一啲嘅情緒狀況啦，咁其實佢哋都好邊緣化啦，佢尋求緊嘅 peer groups 啦。咁而喺作詞比賽嘅裏邊咧，佢都表達好多佢哋網絡欺凌啊，受到網絡欺凌嘅一啲嘅狀況啦。咁所以今次咧，我哋成個 project 咧，其實係期望緊咧係會一個2年嘅 project 啦。咁主要嚟講咧，我哋會一年咧會有3個學期啦，2年會有6個學期啦。會做啲咩咧？同我哋之前嘅 pilot 都係好相似，但係我哋重新整理過啦，有系統咁去做。咁首先我哋會做一個 webinar 啦，係一個直播啦 webinar 啦，去接觸一個比較 mass 啲嘅年青人嘅數字啦。咁然之後再做8堂嘅課堂啦，咁包括係一啲mental health 嘅課堂啦。咁我哋會有填詞工作坊啦，咁亦都會有一個咧係一啲同剪片啦，佢同 YouTube 即係佢哋有興趣相關嘅一啲嘅項目啦。咁然之後再接住咧，我哋就會有一個佢哋嘅成果咧去做翻一啲嘅 webinar 咧去一齊 share 翻一啲嘅結果啦。咁每年咧，我哋會有一個填詞比賽啦，贏咗我哋會做一個嘅 music video 啦。咁我哋 target 緊咧喺2年裏邊咧，我哋即係會接觸到咧即係2360個一個direct 嘅 beneficiary 嘅人數啦。咁 indirect 其實講緊一啲可能係片嘅number of views 咁樣啦。咁呢個詳細嘅 implementation plan 啦，咁係講緊頭先我都有提過，咁裏邊係一啲嘅內容啦。咁而喺今次嘅裏邊咧，我哋 expect 咧，即係喺唔同嘅程度裏邊咧，除咗 output 之外，都有啲嘅 outcome 啦。咁亦都分咗3個 level 啦。咁係第一個 level 係一啲自我認知上啦，包括可能佢有機會係識到唔同新朋友啦。咁 level 2咧就係講緊一啲知識啊、技能上嘅提升啦，包括係一啲即係 佢哋學到點樣去剪片啊、拍片啊嚇，點樣去填詞啊。因為我哋相信填詞係一個比較低門檻啲嘅入場嚇。因為如果做真係作曲啊，咁其實如果佢冇音樂底子，就比較難去處理啦嚇。咁另外我哋最希望嘅就係一啲 behavioral change， 即係透過呢啲嘅轉變咧，令到佢提升佢去學習嘅動力啦。本身呢班人雖然低動力去尋求協助啦，但係佢哋係好高動力去上網嘅。所以我哋相信咧喺我哋即係動機介入嚟講咧，係有一個方法去做到啦。咁而呢個就係 budget 啦。咁最後我哋希望咧係長遠咧係同更多嘅唔同嘅單位去合作啦，將到呢一個成為一個案例咧，去讓其他人參考咁樣嘅。
唔該晒。咁交翻俾評判啦，唔知評判呢邊又有冇一啲問題呢？
我想問咧，你哋用咩方法去測量佢哋嗰個 outcome？ 即係你點樣知道佢究竟即係睇咗你哋上咗你哋網之後，佢究竟接受到幾多，同埋佢可以觸發到佢啊？
咁我哋主要嗰個即係一部分就係片啦，咁片其實係好難 evaluate 到佢哋嘅。咁所以我哋頭先嘅 propose 喺個學期裏邊咧，我哋有8堂嘅 workshop 嘅。咁原則上過往嘅經驗咧，完咗 workshop 嘅時候咧，我哋都可以同佢做多一啲問卷啦，甚至有啲 focus group 嘅。因為我哋自己本身都係即係我自己本身都有一個叫 KOL 嘅身份啦。咁我自己都係即係本身係打機拍片出身嘅，教打機咁樣嘅。咁所以咧就同佢哋玩啦。咁所以咧去到 workshop 完嘅時候咧，我哋都可以咧透過呢種咁樣即係同佢有好嘅關係啦。其實佢都會將一啲情況話俾佢聽嘅，都好坦白話俾佢聽啊。今次嘅 workshop 其實佢能唔能夠提升到啦？譬如過往咁佢哋嘅缺席率係好低嘅嚇，即係參加呢啲 workshop 咧，我哋啱啱嗰個6個月嘅 pilot 咧，其實基本上個出席率係超過90%嘅。咁同一般學校上 Zoom 就好唔同啦，即係又會 mute mic 啊、mute cam 啊，即係唔俾你見到樣啊。但係我哋 workshop 佢係好主動去學習嘅。咁呢個就係我哋相信咁樣係可以測量到一部分嘅佢哋嗰個嘅轉變咁樣咯。係啦。
OK， 唔該晒。咁唔該 Andrew， 唔該 Cherry。Okay, let's move on. Go to the next project. The next project is Zumba Changemaker. It is prepared by the Hong Kong Association for the Promotion of Mental Health Limited and will be presented by Stephen Zhang and Jeffrey Andrew. Go over to you.
各位大家好啊！我係香港先人健康促進會嘅副主席Stephen。好高興啦，今日即係介紹一位咧，我哋認識咗佢10年啦，佢喺個族群做咗好多創建同埋帶出嘅希望。同埋我哋好相信點解我哋邀請佢咧？我諗我哋香港人咧係應該呢個時候咧放低晒一啲即係歧視同埋偏見。咁我哋好希望喺呢個最困難嘅時刻2020年咧，我哋再擁抱翻我哋香港人嘅勇氣。咁所以我哋請我哋呢位10大傑出青年啦，Jeff Andrew 咧講一下我哋個Zumba Changemaker 個 project 一啲嘅情況。
多謝 Stephen 啊！咁大家好，我叫 Jeff 啦。咁我今日都見到上年我哋2019年嘅社會運動，加埋今年嘅熱情咧，我哋香港人咧都係冇怕過辛苦嘅。不過今次都冇乜信心可以講到係會繼續咁樣可以去到嘅，咁我哋係冇預計我哋個 mental health。男組今年都出咗個新聞係好嚴重嘅情況，係我哋香港嘅 mental health crisis。所以我哋會點呢？我哋係今次係想 target 翻嘅年青人我哋喺香港嘅將來 ，especially 我哋嘅少數族裔，例如我。今日我哋少數族裔都係遇咗好多唔同嘅問題。我以前3年嘅問題，今日都係發生緊嘅 language、經濟問題同埋教育嘅問題。咁我哋想做啲咩呢？我哋想用 music 去改變佢哋嗰個 life 嘅 music，especially 我哋嘅少數族裔咧係一個好重要嘅 point。It is in our traditions, it is in our culture, it is in our religion. And music 係真係 break all boundaries。我哋想令到 EM youth 加埋香港 local Chinese youth。係可以 bridge together 呢個 gap， 我哋今次咧會有個片可以俾你睇 ，What is an example of that？
可以播片 ，thank you。
you can see the results. 我哋係用緊個 strength-based approach. In 香港，we are not talking enough about strengths. We're talking most about weakness. But we have strengths that we can focus on, and especially 我哋嘅少數族裔, we have such wonderful, diverse strengths. We bring something unique to Hong Kong. One of the great examples is from my old school, Delea. One of the students said it really awakened her soul, and I truly believe this is a platform you need to give us, and especially Smile Center. It is truly a change maker. We are trying something innovative, something needed in Hong Kong today. And I'm going to hand over to Stephen to continue sharing about this platform.
我哋呢個 project 咧，其實大家記住咧，其實我哋唔係淨係 music， 因為我哋俾啲年青人有個希望。我哋更加之喺個 program 入邊咧，我哋有個 job coaching 嘅 training 咧，希望佢哋帶翻佢哋咧係可以咧去幫一啲即係無私嘅照顧者嘅服務。我諗大家知道年青人入呢個服務咧比較難，咁所以我哋呢個特點咧，除咗 music 之外咧，我哋係有個 job coaching 嘅 project 嚇。我哋好相信咧，其實整體個過程咧，我哋啲年青人佢哋有嗰個希望咧，佢喺個過程入邊佢哋有個盼望。喺個 music 入邊咧，可以參加到啲 performance 啊，或者頭先講喺我哋照顧者嘅服務入邊咧，佢重投翻個市場。咁點解咁睇咧？其實喺而家我哋一啲研究咧，睇到少數族裔嘅朋友咧，佢多時都做啲運輸行業啊，或者做一啲比較低下階層嘅情況。咁所以我哋睇翻就其實好多嘅情況，我哋睇一啲嘢咧係一個 problem。其實我哋好想就帶翻俾一啲年青人咧，其實佢哋係有個 strength。咁啊，再落去啦，其實我哋好想咧，其實我哋藉呢個 project 咧，我哋都同啲年青人咧，去到咧喺啲即係亞洲社企嘅比賽，話俾佢聽，其實我哋今天嚟到去點解要做咧？要咁嘅funding去攞咧，我哋希望有個盼望，我哋延續呢個咁嘅 project。咁所以咧，大家睇到咧，我哋喺 PowerPoint 有個 5C 啦，咁再嚟咧，我哋希望咧，除咗嚟緊呢個 project 之外咧，我哋希望喺出年啊，我哋喺即係香港搞第一屆咧，我哋森巴嘅嘉年華，同埋頭先講，我哋好希望咧推動頭先我哋4組人喎，好緊要啊！其實少數族裔嘅朋友，一啲普通嘅年青人，同埋一啲受過傷害嘅年青人咧，有個 band。除咗 band 之外咧，頭先個共融最緊要係佢哋可以參加到我哋照顧者嘅服務。咁啊，多謝晒大家。
咁而家咧又係評判嘅時間啦，咁睇下有冇評判有問題。或者網上嘅評判睇下又有冇問題先。好，係咪有問題啊？麻煩請你問啦。
係，我想問下咧，career training 嗰方面咧，你哋係諗住 train 佢哋做邊一方面嘅工作？
係，因為我頭先講咧，我哋本身香港精神健康促進會咧，就喺2012年咧已經成立咗香港精神健康議會，所以大家可能都聽過在座，我諗即係一啲精神科嘅醫學院啊、社工協會啊，包括我哋社聯嘅同事咧，都喺我哋呢個精神健康議會。咁乃至我諗新生精神會啊、心理衞生會都喺我度，所以我頭先講，我哋喺個 networking 入邊咧，我哋所有嘅年青人嘅組織。我哋喺個過程入邊會搞一啲頭先講，今次係希望鼓勵啲年青人做一啲照顧者嘅服務，所以透過我哋平時嘅 network 都好 strong 啊，好唔怕醜嚇。咁我哋會同職訓局同埋喺嗰個再培訓局，希望將個市場咧話俾我哋所有香港人聽，其實我哋啲後生仔可以做到照顧者服務，除咗頭先 music 嘅 training。唔該晒。
如果冇問題，我哋去下一隊啦。Thank you so much. Thank you, Stephen and Jeffrey. So now move on to the next project. The next project is Rainbow Cup, Sunshine After the Rain, and it is prepared by the Hong Kong Cancer Fund and will be presented by Irene Zhang and Steffi Siu. Thank you.
咁 首先好高興啦，今日能夠有機會喺度咧介紹香港癌症基金會其中一個好重要嘅服務係彩虹會嘅。咁我係 Irene 啦，我係 Stephy。咁提到癌症支援啦，咁其實大部分人都會諗到係幫患者。咁其實佢哋嘅屋企人同埋小朋友咧都會有好深遠嘅影響嘅。咁我想喺呢度請大家睇一睇條短片先。
I cry every day. My mommy has cancer. I don't know what to do. One day we went to Cancer Fund Rainbow Club. They helped me understand. Now I have hope. Get well soon, Mommy.
我哋其中一個個案係5歲嘅 Ellie 佢好不幸，爸爸患上咗末期嘅胃癌。喺佢患病期間 ，Ellie 一直都係由佢公公婆婆所照顧，但係佢唔知道爸爸發生咗咩事。直至到後期，佢去探爸爸嘅時候，佢見到佢好虛弱，完全唔似平時成日同佢玩嗰個大英雄。佢好驚，佢唔知點算，佢開始發噩夢。喺學校佢變得沉默，而且佢亦都有陣時會大喊大叫。我哋知道其實好多小朋友佢哋係缺乏咗一啲詞彙去表達佢哋內心嘅感受，尤其是佢啲恐懼同埋佢哋嘅一啲不安咧，都係俾大人所忽略嘅。咁我哋知道喺個時候屋企其實係好困難。咁有啲小朋友更加會將屋企嘅問題咧係歸咎俾自己，認為係因為自己曳而令到咧爸爸媽媽咧係患病嘅。
其實唔同年紀嘅小朋友，佢哋對於屋企人患上癌症嘅反應都會唔同嘅，所以我哋嘅專業團隊就會為每個小朋友提供唔同嘅服務，去切合佢哋個別嘅需要。好似 Ali 咁樣嘅情況，我哋通常先會用一啲簡單易明嘅方法，令佢明白到乜嘢係癌症啦，癌症會點樣影響到佢哋嘅屋企啦。小朋友喺玩同埋畫畫嘅時候，最容易透露佢哋內心嘅感受，所以我哋亦都會利用遊戲、藝術嘅方法作為一個途徑，去俾佢哋喺一個安全、舒服嘅環境底下，表達佢哋內心嘅一啲諗法啦，或者可能係一啲好難講出嚟嘅感受，舒緩佢哋內心嘅恐懼同埋不安。我哋嘅團隊亦都會慢慢咁引導佢去面對佢屋企人患上癌症之後屋企嘅劇變。而如果屋企人因為不幸因為癌症而離開，或者係即將離開嘅話，我亦都會準備為佢哋準備去面對屋企人嘅離開，或者係排解佢哋心入面悲傷嘅情緒。而呢啲就係有關我哋服務嘅一啲相。呢兩幅畫係由 Ali 佢接受我哋服務之後所畫嘅，可以見到佢嘅作品已經變得正面，同埋充滿住佢對屋企人嘅愛。面對當前嘅疫情，好多時癌症病者佢哋都會心理壓力好高啦，而小朋友亦都係好多時間留喺屋企，變咗成個家庭都會活喺呢個癌症同埋疫情嘅陰霾底下。小朋友原先有嘅心理問題，亦都會變得更加嚴重。所以我哋會繼續利用 Zoom 或者其他嘅通訊軟件，去為一啲有需要嘅小朋友提供一啲恰當嘅服務，去幫助佢哋嘅。而我哋目標就係2年期間支援大概500位小朋友同埋佢哋嘅家長。小朋友係未來嘅棟梁，係未來嘅希望。所以我哋希望透過我哋嘅服務，可以幫助到佢哋舒緩內心嘅一啲不安啦，或者係一啲負面情緒。更重要係幫助佢哋建立一啲面對逆境嘅能力，令到佢哋日後面對其他嘅困難同埋困境嘅時候，都有能力去面對，繼續健康成長，擁有不一樣嘅未來。而呢就係我哋將會用嚟審視我哋服務嘅一啲評估嘅工具。我哋會喺服務前後邀請小朋友同埋佢哋嘅家長去填一問卷啦，參加小組討論。現時我哋係香港唯一提供呢類服務嘅機構，而我哋嘅服務都係由呢班專業嘅人士所提供，所以希望在座各位可以考慮支持我哋呢個別具意義嘅項目，令到一班處於黑暗嘅小朋友可以重拾佢哋開心嘅生活，揾到佢哋雨後嘅彩虹。多謝各位。
好，咁而家咧，我哋又將個時間交俾台下嘅評判啦。咁唔知評判有冇問題咧？好似 Alan 有問題喎。
唔該，我想問下你哋點樣去揾到呢啲小朋友？
病人佢哋自己咧有時都會話俾我哋聽屋企嘅問題嘅，咁我哋都會揾到佢哋出嚟。咁其實我哋亦都會係嘗試去同學校咧係去做一啲嘅接觸啦。咁有陣時學校嘅社工咧都會話俾我哋聽有呢啲問題嘅兒童。咁我哋其中一個比較 future 我哋嘅 plan 就希望去 outreach 去多啲學校，去教老師點樣 identify 呢一啲嘅同學出嚟，咁等我哋可以幫到佢哋嘅。
好，咧 Ivy 咧有問題喎，麻煩你。可能開翻個聲先，聽唔到，再問多次啊！開翻個聲，係。
翻嚟嘅，我想有個問題問一問，你哋而家咧呢個項目係咪已經係有做緊嘅咧？定係你哋準備做攞咗呢個funding至開始做呢？仲有一個問題就係，如果呢個program 完咗咧，你係諗住2年㗎啦，之後你個 program 係點？會唔會再繼續咧？
係，其實咧呢一個係我哋基金會一個長期嘅服務嚟㗎。咁我哋已經係差唔多行咗有10年㗎啦。咁之後咧完咗呢個 funding 之後，我哋都會繼續 seek funding 咧去 continue 呢個好重要嘅服務嘅。
咁你而家暫時咧嗰個program 係 run by 你哋自己嘅 funding 定係有邊度嘅 resources 咧？
係因為我哋基金會所有服務都係免費嘅，咁我哋都係靠自己去 fundraise 咧，翻嚟咧係同唔同嘅 parties 咧、corporates 同 individuals 咧 fundraise 翻嚟去 sustain 我哋啲 program 嘅，咁呢個 program 都係一樣。
台下如果仲有冇問題啊？冇嘅話，我哋多謝，唔該晒。Thank you, Irene. Thank you, Stephanie. So right now we move to the next team. The next project is Citywide Youth Sports Wellbeing Initiative. It is prepared by Keeley Support Group and Hong Kong Rugby Union Community Foundation and will be presented by Rocky Chow and Cindy Ng. Go over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to present to you guys today. My name is Rocky. I'm from the Hong Kong Rugby Union Community Foundation. And next to me is Cindy from the Kelly Support Group.
So Kelly Support Group is a youth organization in Hong Kong with the mission to empower young people to reach their full potential by providing knowledge, skills, and opportunities in the 3 areas of mental health and well-being, drug and alcohol awareness, and positive youth development.
Yeah, a little bit about the Rugby Union Community Foundation, founded in 2013, with aim to use rugby to bring about positive change within the community by tackling social issues. We've partnered for over 9 years, from tackling youth alcohol issues at the Hong Kong Sevens to youth mental health with our New Year's Day youth tournament. We believe the program we're presenting to you today is a great platform for our partnership to continue on a more long-term basis.
Young people in Hong Kong nowadays are facing a lot of different challenges, and we continue to see a high increase in mental health issues amongst them. In order for them to really build resilience to cope with these challenges, we believe that we need to provide support to them at an earlier stage, so that they could build awareness at their mental health issues and also a really strong network for them, so that they don't have to cope with these challenges with unhealthy coping mechanisms, such as like substance abuse and alcohol abuse and also self-harm. Instead, they would be able to support not only themselves but also their peers around them. In order to achieve this, today we're here to provide a solution with a new initiative. We're trying to bring the mental health education actually into the rugby community for young people to build mental health awareness at an early stage.
We picked the age of 12 to 16 with a focus on early intervention with young people to develop resilience and life skills. We believe 12 to 16 are the most academic stressed, a perfect group to introduce peer support through sport, and we believe advocates creates the best role models for the future. The best approach is to take the program to the audience, providing support outside of the pressure of schools, With the diversity in rugby, we felt this is the best environment for young people to learn and to take back the learnings back into the school environment. We chose rugby because we believe rugby is a game for all. From the recent studies we've done, we found that over 50 different nationalities play rugby in Hong Kong. As Nelson Mandela said, sport has the power to change the world, so this is very, very meaningful.
So here is our 2 years timeline. So in the first year, we're going to spend half a year to develop the curriculum with experts in mental health and sports from the States. And then we'll use 1.5 years to do the full rollout and evaluation.
Right, we believe the program to be effective and sustainable. A formalized learning process is critical. This program will be aimed to deliver a great foundation which we can apply not just for rugby, for other sports in the future. In the first year, we focus on developing both on and offline training. The mixed method will allow flexible learning opportunities for coaches and players within the time frame. Covering an initial 600 players and 30 coaches, a perfect platform with a goal to reach over 2,000 people within the community.
So here you can see some of our key outcomes. In our evaluation process, we'll work with our university partners to develop a pre and post evaluation, focus group, and individual interview to measure the outcome of the program, which we're aiming to see improvement in knowledge, attitude change, and behavioral change in both coaches and players. After the program, young people will be able to start conversation around mental health. They would be able to build their own support network and improve in help-seeking behavior. Also, coaches will be equipped with knowledge and skills to really support their players on the field and off the field.
Great. Just a very brief overview of the budget. We're very fortunate to have received some funding for our recent event, so that would go towards the program as well.
So we all know that young people are our future, and we want them to grow both physically and mentally healthy with, under this especially difficult time in Hong Kong right now. So we hope that young people don't have to wait until, they're really struggling to get help. But with all your support, we hope that they could really reach out at an early stage and be able to support themselves and also their friends around them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now let's invite our judges to ask some questions. And also online judges, see whether you have any question.
Yeah. If the social distancing requirements continue, how will you implement some of your programs, which seem to rely on a lot of face-to-face and team approach and the coaching approach?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's one of the key reasons why we're developing an on and offline curriculum. So we recently, since the pandemic, the Rugby Union have actually done a lot of online interaction with different organizations. So this is another avenue that will go down prior to being able to do face-to-face interaction.
Okay. No more questions, then we move on. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rocky and Cindy. Now, move to the next project. It is Touch My Heart. It is prepared by SLCO Community Resources Limited and will be presented by Mandy Tang, Chris Yu, and interpreter Heidi. Good morning.
Đại家好，我係 Chris Yu。
我係 Mandy Tang，我哋兩個係羽橋社資嘅義務董事。
羽橋社資其實係由中文大學推動成立嘅一個獨立嘅慈善團體。今次我哋希望透過 Touch My Heart， 其實係將我哋嘅服務咧係擴展到聾人嘅心理輔導服務嘅。咁其實聾人究竟聽到嘅聲音係點嘅咧？不如大家代入下聾人嘅處境，去體驗一下我哋聽3個英文字。你答啱咗幾多咧？其實聾人嘅問題，佢唔係聽唔到聲音，而係一生人都聽得唔清楚。
我作為一個聾人，我曾經都試過有好嚴重嘅心理障礙。喺嗰段時間，我對於自己嘅身份好模糊，我覺得自己唔係聾人，又唔係健聽人。無論係同屋企人定係心理學家去傾訴，佢哋都唔明白我。我覺得自己就好似係一個玻璃樽入面咁樣， 見到身邊嘅人，但係就聯繫唔到佢哋。聾人除咗溝通障礙之外，佢哋同屋企人嘅相處啦、社交啦、工作同埋學業嘅壓力，都會令到佢哋比其他人更加容易有心理嘅障礙。咁研究就發現，聾人比起一般人有更加多嘅機會，有2至3倍嘅機會係有心理同精神上面嘅障礙嘅，甚至每5個聾人就有1個有自殺嘅傾向。喺而家肺炎嘅情況之下，聾人嘅心理問題一定會變得更加嚴重。
係啊，其實喺我哋咁多嘅服務嘅經驗裏面呢，我哋真係見到聾人有好多心理上嘅需要。但係就算有好多社區嘅服務，根據我哋最近一個調查，原來超過1半嘅聾人呢，佢哋係唔願意去接受呢啲服務嘅。就算佢願意接受，原來佢都有好多嘅憂慮。最主要憂慮就係佢哋擔心私隱嘅問題啦、溝通嘅問題啦。或者咧手語傳譯員佢唔明白心理輔導點樣進行，又或者心理輔導員咧佢唔明白聾人嘅需要係點樣。咁所以我哋希望可以成立呢個計劃，係因為我哋相信 Deaf Mind Matters, Deaf Lives Matter。
語橋要建立一個手語雙語嘅心理輔導模式。喺呢個模式底下，除咗會用手語同口語進行輔導之外，我哋亦都會培訓心理學家同埋手語傳譯去學習跨專業嘅知識，從而為聾人提供一個更加到位嘅心理輔導服務。
咁全港咧，其實根據統計有大概15,500嘅聾人，而我哋今次呢個目標咧，希望集中喺15至49歲9,900個聾人同埋佢哋嘅家庭成員。咁我哋相信咧，有比較大需要嘅咧係大概有6,000人嘅。而我哋會同說書人裡面嘅4位臨床心理學家一齊去協作，去跨專業嘅去發展呢一個項目，分成3個層面。第一層，我哋係一個直接評估同埋輔導服務。我哋希望透過喺裡面累積嘅經驗，我哋可以建立一個 deaf friendly 嘅一個心理輔導服務。第二個層面係 train the trainer，我哋會將我哋建立咗嘅模式，逐步嘅去透過訓練咧，係帶俾唔同嘅社區服務機構，令到佢哋咧可以直接嘅去服務更多嘅聾人。而第3個層面咧就係社區教育，其實亦都係一個 empowerment 嘅一個 process。我哋希望透過說書人嘅訓練，幫助聾人啦同埋佢哋嘅家人咧，去分享佢哋自己嘅心路歷程，讓佢哋呢啲嘅經歷咧都可以鼓勵到身邊唔同嘅有需要嘅人。
呢個計劃嘅資金主要就係用嚟心理輔導啦，仲有建立一個3.5人嘅 project team。咁語橋嘅董事同埋所有嘅員工全體都會全力支持呢個計劃嘅。
我哋嘅宣傳咧會透過直接嘅去到呢啲嘅唔同嘅服務機構啦，希望係建立到呢個 network。另外咧，我哋會透過我哋已經有嘅一啲網絡啦，同埋社會嘅social media 咧，我哋可以接觸到更多嘅社會人士，改變大家對聾人嘅睇法。咁喺呢2年嘅裏面，我哋希望可以接觸到5萬個社會人士啦，3,000個專業人員，同埋咧大概1,000個聾人嘅。而長遠咧，我哋希望呢個模式喺香港成立之後咧，亦都可以去推廣到唔同嘅地方，甚至乎咧，亦都擴展到細路仔啦或者長者嘅對象。
語橋 Touch My Heart 呢個項目需要330萬嘅贊助嚟推行，為香港成立一個手語雙語心理輔導模式，以手語同埋口語作為一道橋梁，令聾人可以跨過障礙，安心接受服務，融入社會。請支持我哋，多謝大家。
Thank you。咁而家咧又要交俾評判啦。咁睇下評判有冇一啲問題，或者網上嘅評判又有冇其他問題？好啦，冇啦，多謝。多謝你哋嘅 presentation。Okay, go over to the next project. Mind and Study Matter, Tutoring and Counseling Program. It is prepared by the Education University of Hong Kong and Edge Development Center, and will be presented by Kian Poon and Aiki Jiang. Thank you.
大家好，我叫 Kian， 我係香港教育大學特殊教育及輔導學系嘅副系主任，我本身亦都係一位教育心理學家。
大家好，我係 Ike， 我係 Edge Development Centre 嘅 Director。咁我有8年 support 有特殊教育需要學生嘅經驗。
好，喺一開始嘅時候咧，想同大家分享2張相。左邊呢一位呢個女仔咧叫做 Elise， 佢係有焦慮症嘅。我哋做家訪嘅時候，發現原來佢爸爸係一個吸毒者，佢媽媽係一個清潔女工。佢對佢嘅焦慮症其實唔認識。Elise 咧喺好緊張嘅時候咧，佢會不停用熱水去洗手。媽媽覺得好驚，唔知點做，就送一部 iPad 俾佢，等佢喺屋企咧就唔好出街。佢就覺得咁樣比較安全。我想同大家講，呢張相影嘅時候咧，其實 Elise 入咗戒毒所，佢跟咗佢爸爸一樣吸毒。呢條就係佢嘅路。右手邊呢一班咧，其實係我哋教育大學嘅學生。佢哋都係未來嘅老師。佢哋會主修唔同嘅科目啦，中文啊、英文啊、數學啊咁樣。呢一次咧係6月份我去收 data 嘅時候，佢同我哋一齊。因為咧疫情嘅緣故，令到佢哋揾工都比較困難，但係佢哋亦都對知識好有追求。今日想講嘅呢個計劃咧，其實就係呢兩班嘅受惠者。好特別嘅，佢哋係今次 project 嘅受惠者，但係亦都係服務嘅提供者同服務嘅接受者。佢哋會你會睇到分別咧，就係一班有精神心理問題嘅一啲中學生，但係嚟自低收入家庭。另外一批咧就係我哋而家嘅大學生，但係因為疫情嘅緣故咧，未必可以即時揾到工作。我哋相信疫情或者經濟下行，佢哋嘅數字會越嚟越上升。
咁為咗幫佢哋咧，其實我哋就諗咗一個補習輔導咁樣嘅新服務模式。咁其實係點樣運作嘅咧？就係我哋會發信去全港中學嗰度去，即係尋求一個合作嘅關係。係啦，咁我哋知咧，其實即係頭先大家一路聽 presentation 都知咧，坊間其實好多精神健康相關嘅 resources 㗎啦，依家無論 online 啦定係 offline 啦，係咪？咁但係咧，其實年青人咧唔願意去尋求呢啲服務，咁其中一個好大嘅原因咧就係怕被標籤。係啦，咁其實即係我哋調翻轉睇咧，就係基本上都冇乜邊個中學生咧係唔補習嘅，係嘛？咁我哋就想咧補習咧作為一個好嘅一個服務介入點。OK， 咁攞翻即係頭先故事個女仔 Elise 為例咧，佢係我哋即係如果佢哋係我哋合作中學嘅學生，老師就會推薦佢參加我哋嘅計劃。咁而我哋嘅導師咧就會落去學校嗰度咧，同佢去做一啲有輔導元素嘅補習。與此同時，我哋亦都會有一啲個別輔導節咧，去 touch on 佢一啲好 personal 嘅一啲 issues。咁而即係頭先我哋講落學校嘅導師咧，其實就係頭先我哋講其中一個受助人，就係我哋嘅大學畢業生。佢哋經過我哋專業嘅網上一啲培訓啦，喺心理學家嘅督導之下咧，就可以提供到一啲貼身嘅服務。
好重要嘅咧，就係我哋大學嘅團隊咧，會為整個培訓咧，我哋會有一個 curriculum， 係按住今次嘅計劃，亦都係大學嘅框架而設。我哋有assessment 咧，亦都有 interview 喺裏邊嘅。我哋今次嘅受惠者，除咗係頭先講嘅一啲中學生同大學生之外，我哋仲希望用唔同嘅平台將心理嘅健康嘅訊息帶開去。我哋亦都好希望咧，就係點樣去改變學校裏邊支援呢一班學生嘅風氣。我哋希望 empower 我哋嘅家長 ，empower 我哋嘅老師，令到佢對成件事有一個新嘅睇法。
咁其實我哋計劃推行咧，我哋會覺得係刻不容緩嘅，因為大家都知其實疫情對於無論畢業生嘅就業啦、中學生嘅學業同精神健康啦，都有好大嘅打擊。咁而我哋嘅計劃咧，就係可以好彈性地，無論疫情嘅反覆咧，可以係落學校或者喺網上嘅形式咧，去為呢啲服務受助人提供服務嘅。咁而其實我哋都想咧，就係學校可以利用即係政府俾嘅一啲 funding 係啦，就係即係幫特殊教育學生嘅嗰啲資金咧，去資助好似 Elise 咁樣嘅學生去接受服務。
係啊，我哋好希望為呢個社會帶嚟一個好大嘅正面影響。除咗用政府嘅啲 funding 去幫佢哋之外咧，我哋大學仲有個團隊去為咗我哋呢一件事嘅 effectiveness 一路做緊一啲 measure， 去 make sure 我哋做緊嘅嘢係真係我哋嘅中學生係能夠受益，佢哋無論嘅學習上面，無論佢哋嘅情緒上面都係得到支援。我哋希望造就一啲新嘅工作機會，亦都將我哋成個課程去攞資歷架構嘅。最後咧，好想同大家有一個反思。 去諗下，咦？如果 Elise 頭先嗰個女仔喺中學嘅時候能夠接受到我哋呢個計劃嘅話，唔知佢嘅人生會唔會再不一樣呢？多謝。
唔該晒。咁而家我又睇下評判會唔會有問題？有冇問題啊 ？OK，Ethan。
唔該，我想請問下，咁樣即係對於呢啲中學生輔導，你哋點樣去 measure 佢嘅 effectiveness 啊？
我哋咧會大學有一個 team 嘅，我哋會做一啲 pre-test 同一啲 post-test， 我哋都有啲 waitlist control group 去 make sure 佢哋喺補習前同補習中途同補習後，其實佢嘅情緒同學習嘅動機上面都有進步啦。
OK， 唔該晒。唔該。Okay, let's move on to the next project. Thank you. Thank you, Kian and Aiki. So next project is Just Add Movement. It is prepared by the Hong Kong Society for Rehabilitation and will be presented by Anna Kwok and Eunice Lai. Thank you.
Today, we want to tell you a life transformation story. He's Kin Shing, and this is his wife. 5 years ago, he got married, job promotion, but in the same year, he had very serious stroke, 中風, and they experienced the greatest adversity in their life. There are many Kin Shing stories. 1 in 3 Hong Kong people gets chronic illness, which equals to 200 Hong Kong collision seating capacity. Patients' risk of developing depression and anxiety is twice the rate of general population, and the caregivers are also extremely stressful. In COVID-19, they have extra stress and social isolation because of the poor physical condition. They are easily to trap in this vicious cycle. They can't accept the physical limitation, develop a lot of mental health symptoms, and the poor mental health condition will further deteriorate their physical health. What's the consequence if there's no proper intervention? First, there must be heavy burden to the family and the society. Second, there may cause a lot of sad tragedies, and it will greatly affect the mood and spirits of Hong Kong people. So it is very crucial to find an effective solution with these elements. We believe that Just Add movement is the solution. The design of Just Add is based on an innovative approach called acceptance and commitment therapy. It's different from traditional model which focus on problem and to fix problem, but instead it will encourage the people with chronic illness or facing life crisis to accept and embrace what they can't change and commit and take action about what they care about and do the proper action. It's widely used in many countries and is ready to localize and serve more population. So Just Add movement is powerful tools to help patient and caregiver to free from their vicious cycle and rebuild their life, just like the slogan of this project, 在不能逆轉中找到轉變.
There are 5 components in this project. 起行轉輔導. It includes 4 sections: psycho-education program and individual follow-up. And online education resources will distribute to the participant and let them take action every day. And a key message of treat life in crisis is a new experience to the general public. About 1,000 beneficiaries will receive the psycho-educational class, and some of them will receive the individual follow-up. 70% of the participants will have a improvement in their mental health. In order to increase the awareness of the mental health, 30,000 people will receive the key message of ACT. In the future, this program will roll out to another target group. Let me tell you the second part of Kin Shing. After a intensive rehabilitation training, he walk without the stick, but he can't. he accepted the reality and he embraced his life and enjoyed his new life. He said, 我唔能夠咧100% 咧翻返去以前嗰個狀態㗎啦，不過我只能夠希望咧應付到我日常嘅生活咧已經心滿意足啦。This success factor of this patients is matched with the concept of ACT. So please do support our program, Just ACT movement. Hong Kong SR advocate holistic health, and we are good track record in localization of self-help management program called CDSMP in Hong Kong. Thank you very much.
Okay, go over to the judge panel. Any question? And online judges, do you have any question? So thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Anna and Eunice. So next project is Sleep Well, Live Well, and it is prepared by Tonghua Group of Hospital Jockey Club, Tin Shui Wai Integrated Service Center, and will be presented by Roger Chen and Joy Lam. Go over to you.
大家好，我係 Roger Chan。
好，大家好，我係 Joy Lam， 喺呢度想打一個故事同大家分享。前幾日喺我哋中心有一個中心嘅男仔嚟咗我哋呢度，佢因為失眠嘅問題咧，就想揾人去到傾下。各位，你哋有冇印象咧？自己對上一次失眠係幾時咧？當時個感覺係點嘅咧？我好希望同大家分享一下當時個男仔嘅感受係點。呢張圖係個男仔自己揀嘅。原來咧，佢持續失眠一段時間咧，有好多負面嘅情緒咧湧現咗喺個腦入邊，佢會不時懷疑自己啦，覺得自己冇存在嘅價值啦，甚至諗過死。而研究顯示咧，失眠嘅人啦，佢哋患上抑鬱症嘅機會咧，係會比起平常人咧高3倍嘅。而我哋咧屯門、元朗、天水圍區嘅青少年咧，對呢個精神健康服務咧，的確好有需要。我哋最近呢一區有個個案，中4嘅男仔，因為一啲緊急嘅情緒問題，喺半夜嘅時候去咗屯門醫院嘅急症室。佢出咗院之後咧，下一次見到精神科醫生嘅時間已經係9個月之後，因為我哋太多人輪候，所以我哋呢一區嘅精神健康服務係好急切嘅。
事實上，睡得不好，自然活得不好。佢哋因為睡眠不足或者欠佳咧，佢哋嘅壓力指數、抑鬱同埋焦慮咧係會飆升，而衍生到情緒病，甚至乎咧會有更加唔開心嘅有自殺嘅行為。12至24歲嘅族群咧，佢哋受嘅負面影響咧會更加緊要。其實一個謬誤嘅諗法，睡眠係一個需要，不過唔重要。佢擺喺優次擺得好低。我哋呢個計劃希望推廣翻一個信息，睡眠唔單止係需要，亦都好重要嘅。我哋會引入一啲嘅技術喺我哋嘅活動裏邊，我哋會打造一個網上嘅輔導室。除咗係喺疫情回應疫情，令到啲青人唔會因為懼怕出門口接觸人群，甚至乎有隱蔽傾向嘅青人咧，都可以攞到網上嘅支援服務之外咧，我哋會同開發商研發嗰個嘅軟件係可以支援到2014年以前嘅 iPhone 手機或者係 Android 手機咧，都可以用到虛擬嘅背景，令到呢班青年咧唔會因為屋企嘅環境或者嘈雜嘅環境咧嚟抗拒網上輔導。當我哋喺呢一個網上輔導室初步評估佢有急切需要嘅時候咧，我哋轉介俾一啲私人執業嘅精神科醫生診斷或者處方開藥，再配合翻中醫嘅調理。跟住我哋轉介會去小組活動，同埋我哋一啲嘅身心靈嘅活動。喺社區裏邊，我哋會利用一啲嘅得意啲嘅變形家私嘅gimmick，或者係空間改造嘅gimmick，令到好多青人咧同埋佢家人都知道睡眠點樣去幫助我哋提升精神健康嘅指數。我哋成個計劃直接同埋間接嘅受益人高達5000人。人次接近1萬。當佢哋接受咗一個活動服務之後，佢哋嘅健康指數會平穩，佢哋嗰個情緒病嘅 病發率會降低，喺成個社區裏邊對醫療系統嘅需求壓力亦都會減低嘅。
2年嘅計劃入邊，我哋會同香港大學嘅 Behavioural Centre 合作，希望可以得出以下3個成果。第一，我哋會持續研究呢個網上輔導服務嘅可行性同埋普及性。第二，我哋會深入研究呢個睡眠質素同埋精神健康之間嘅關係，從而增加青少年嘅得益。第三，我哋會推行一個全新嘅心理健康教育，係有關呢一個失眠同埋精神健康嘅。我哋希望可以為香港撰寫一個新嘅服務模式，讓呢個 project 之後係能夠有其他嘅學校非牟利機構都就住喺精神健康呢方面有一個新嘅啟示。
我哋成個活動會申請280萬推展呢個活動。更加重要嘅，我哋希望有一部分嘅資金去幫助基層青年人去處理佢哋嘅急切嘅症診，唔會因為係冇錢冇得醫，有咁嘅悲傷嘅現象喺度。
我哋嘅計劃有2個階段，第一個階段係網上嘅服務，第二階段係網上服務結合呢個實體嘅服務，2年都會同香港大學合作做研究。
我哋成個計劃係會以精神健康為我哋嘅主打，喺社區裏邊我哋係一直會持續會運作落去。2年嘅成功經驗會推動我哋喺機構嘅層面揾多啲嘅資源，或者係結合Can Company 繼續嘅支援我哋嘅服務。我哋希望打破一個謬誤，睡眠係需要但唔重要。我哋希望喺問題出現之前，我哋及早做預防同埋做疏導。多謝各位。
好，咁而家我哋又睇下評判有冇咩問題，又或者網上嘅評判又或者有冇咩問題 ？OK， 冇問題嘅，唔該晒。Thank you, Roger and George. So now we move to the last team. It is Mindful Music. It is prepared by the Hong Kong Society for the Blind, Kowloon Home for the Aged Blind, and will be presented by Armstrong Chiu and Heidi Ko, as they are serving high-risk elderly group and want to protect all of us here. So they choose to present the proposal remotely via Zoom. Thank you, Armstrong and Heidi. Go over to you.
好，各位評審大家好，我而家會 share 我哋嘅 PowerPoint。各位評審大家好，我係嚟自香港盲人輔導會九龍盲人安老院嘅 Heidi。好榮幸同大家分享我哋嘅項目 Mindful Music 正響樂齡進行曲。突然而嚟嘅新冠狀肺炎影響住一班住喺院舍嘅長者，佢哋嘅親友冇辦法前嚟探望，好多活動都要取消，呢啲措施影響住佢哋嘅精神健康。提到院舍生活，普遍人都會諗起佢哋嘅起居飲食、身體健唔健康，其實佢哋嘅精神健唔健康，我哋同樣值得關注。我哋院舍嘅院友平均住咗6年，最長住咗22年。喺呢52,560小時入邊，佢哋嘅生活係點樣呢？我哋可以點樣豐富佢哋嘅生活呢？我哋就構思咗一個項目，係以正念為基礎，賦予音樂嘅活動、樂齡科技改善長者嘅精神健康。除咗長者，我哋亦都會邀請佢哋屋企人啦、義工參與以正念為基礎嘅一啲呼吸嘅練習、音樂嘅聆聽、互動等等，讓佢哋享受活在當下。透過呼吸練習，讓到佢哋能夠放鬆身心，享受平靜嘅時間。有研究亦都顯示咧，以正念為基礎嘅一啲音樂治療，對於患有癌症嘅女性啦，或者一啲抑鬱嘅人士，能夠改善到佢哋嘅情緒。而且正念咧，亦都能夠提升人嘅注意力。音樂亦都可以為人咧減少一啲苦惱嘅情緒。音樂可以為人帶走一啲嘅傷感。對於長者嚟講，音樂嘅意義都係咁大嘅。當長者聽到屬於自己年代嘅歌曲嘅時候，能夠喚起佢哋年輕時嘅音樂記憶，佢哋會好開心咁樣唱歌，跟住歌曲去打拍子。我哋今次係想聘請專業嘅音樂人、社工或者職業嘅治療師，會聯同我哋義務嘅專業團隊，為長者度身訂做一個音樂嘅活動。 專業嘅音樂人會按住長者嘅喜好唱出佢哋年代嘅歌曲，每位長者有屬於自己嘅歌單，以歌曲分享生命。喺過往，我哋亦都善用樂齡科技去支援長者嘅日常嘅生活啦、精神上面嘅需要，為佢哋帶嚟希望。今次我哋亦都會善用樂齡科技，我哋申請資助嘅儀器係 nurses 社工或者職業治療師，能夠透過 nurses 去實時檢視到長者參與音樂正念活動時，佢哋腦部嘅前額葉嘅活躍情況，能夠收集數據作為一個研究之用，而且部分嘅長者難以表達自己完整嘅感受或者諗法，透過 nurses 係可以即時檢視到佢參與唔同嘅音樂啦、正念活動時佢哋一啲反應，我哋可以調整我哋活動嘅內容，達至目標。呢條係一條短片，呢個咧係我哋2019年完成嘅一個真實嘅案例。呢位係95歲嘅婆婆，佢用緊 nurses 進行一個認知嘅評估，黃色同紅色嘅部分就係被激活嘅區域，我哋一齊睇睇。
姨丈買魚腸，姨丈買魚腸。好。西施44歲，西施44歲。好。
喺項目就益對象嘅方面，長者會參與我哋一系列以正念為基礎活動，去改善佢哋嘅精神健康。而佢嘅屋企人係十分關注院舍長者嘅精神健康，長者生活得係咪開心，係直接影響到佢哋嘅情緒。我哋會邀請家屬、義工同長者一同參與音樂嘅活動，而活動嘅當中，我哋亦都會邀請青少年一同去舉行活動啦。佢會同長者能夠建立到關係。另外，我哋都會善用網上嘅社交平台作宣傳，提升大眾對於精神健康嘅關注。另外，我哋嘅項目亦具有前瞻性，我哋會透過一啲嘅專業嘅分享，向本地同埋國際係一個分享嘅交流啦，促進大家咧對於長者嘅精神健康嘅關注。而且，我哋呢個研究咧亦都可以作為香港嘅安老院一個嘅參考性嘅研究。讓我哋咧一同為長者嘅未來帶嚟希望同改變。多謝各位評審。
嚟現場呢度，咁首先我問下呢度嘅評判有冇乜嘢嘅問題？咁提問。冇喎，咁或者網上嘅評判有冇問題？OK， 都係冇嘅。好，唔該晒。Thank you to all. Thank you. Thanks to all 12 NGOs for pitching their proposal, and to our honorable judges for listening attentively and ask insightful questions. I'm sure select just one winner from 12 NGOs, it is not an easy job for the judge panel. So now it is your turn to show support for your preferred project by voting. All clients watch online will see a QR code on the screen now. Please take out your mobile phone, scan the QR code, and click the voting button. And then select your top 3 preferred projects and click submit. If you need more time to make decision, no problem. Please remember to vote before 4 p.m. today. We're now approaching to the end of today, a very meaningful event. And I now invite Ms. Siu Ming Tang, Regional Head of HSBC Private Banking, Asia Pacific, to say a few words. Siu Ming, please.
Thank you very much, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an extremely exciting as well as meaningful morning that we have spent together. I'm really impressed by the energy from all the presenters and everyone who has participated, whether in the room or over Zoom. Now, and I say, thank you very much for being part of the journey to contribute to the Hong Kong community recovering from the impact of COVID-19. First of all, I want to say, express once again my sincere thanks to our speakers. Earlier on, we had Adrian, we had Cecilia and Kat. Your insights really inspired us on ways we can actually achieve our philanthropic aspiration. I would now like to extend again also my sincerest gratitude to my fellow judges. We had Adrian, we had Adeline, we had Bonnie, Clifford, Karen, and Ivy. Thank you so very much for all your participation and taking time to really, help us in terms of the selection of the projects. And to all the NGO leaders and the volunteers who took part in the hackathon, again, thank you for investing your time and energy to develop and refine your project plans to improve the community's well-being. Please continue with the good work that you have been doing. It really inspires every one of us to think about how we can also continue to contribute to the communities. Now, looking ahead, I would like to invite an invitation to all of you to join us at the My Matters Award ceremony, and this will take place on the 29th of September. On this day, we will announce the projects which will receive a grant to implement their solutions to address mental health challenges in Hong Kong. And if you would like to donate to support the projects that you heard today, please get in touch with my team, my colleagues, and people who have participated in this particular forum. And as we learned today, mental health affects everyone, from children to the elderly. And I think we really need to take care of both our own physical and mental health. And I hope all of you would consider being a change maker and join us in raising awareness about mental well-being and supporting researchers, medical professionals, and social workers to understand and deliver preventive and reactive care so that we can all help work together in terms of re-energizing the community in which we live in. So once again, my very sincere thanks to everybody for participating in this forum. And also, I'm really very thankful to my colleagues for having come up with this idea, this initiative, put months of work into making this a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Siu Ming. The final result of our competition will be announced during the My Matters Award presentation ceremony on 25th of September, and we will send out detail by next week. Thank you for joining today's virtual event, and we look forward to seeing you again. Hope everyone have a lovely week ahead. Goodbye.